I sent $8,000 to help my parents fix the roof. 2 weeks later, my sister shared photos, a full-on renovation party. Everyone was there except me. When I asked, Mom said it was just for family. I smiled, logged in, and froze the account. By morning, I had 51 missed calls. They were banging on my door. I opened it and saw. I regret every dollar I sent them. Not because I couldn't afford it. We were doing fine, but because in the end, my parents treated me like I was nothing more than a bank account. And maybe I was for a while. Maybe that's all I ever was. It started with a phone call from my mom. She sounded unusually sweet, the kind of voice she used back when I was little, and she wanted something done quickly. He told me the roof was in bad shape. My dad had climbed up there after a storm and nearly fell. There was talk of black mold, ruined insulation, water running down the walls. She made it sound like their house was falling apart. I asked if they had any quotes. She sent two. The higher one was just under $8,000. I wired the money that afternoon. My husband didn't even blink. He said, "They're your parents. If they need help, we help." I remember smiling at him, thinking how lucky I was to have someone who understood. We'd been careful with our money, and I genuinely believed this was an emergency. For a week, I didn't hear much. My mom texted once saying, "The guys are working on it. It's noisy." That was it. Then came the photos. Michelle, my sister, who never posts anything like ever, suddenly uploaded a full album on Facebook. She called it Finally Home. I clicked through and my heart sank with each photo. They hadn't repaired the roof. They'd renovated the entire house. New siding, new porch, upgraded windows, fresh landscaping, even a brand new pool heater. There were potted plants arranged like a showroom, decorative lights wrapped around the newly installed deck railing, and a ridiculous fire pit surrounded by sleek patio furniture. It was like one of those after shots from a home makeover show. But that wasn't the worst part. They'd thrown a party. Tables with white cloths, trays of catered food, champagne glasses, music. Everyone was there. Michelle, her husband, our cousins, our aunt and uncle, even the neighbors I recognized from childhood. Everyone except me and my daughter, my 7-year-old, who still drew pictures of Nana and Papa's house. I scrolled through the comments. So beautiful. Can't believe the transformation. Looks like a magazine shoot. I felt sick. I messaged my mom, asked how the roof was holding up. She said, "Looks great. We're finally proud of our home again." That was it. No mention of the party. No mention of me. So I asked straight up. Her reply, "Oh, that was just for family." For words. Just for family. I sat there with my phone in my hand, feeling like someone had kicked me in the chest. My daughter came into the room asking what I was looking at. I closed the screen and told her I was reading the news. Then I walked to the office, logged into our shared account, and moved the entire $8,000 back into my personal one. I didn't warn anyone. I didn't explain. I just took it. By the next morning, I had 51 missed calls. My mom, my dad, Michelle, 2 of my cousins even texted me asking why I was being dramatic. Then came the pounding on the door. Heavy, urgent, like the house was on fire. I opened it. My mother was on her knees. I didn't expect her to actually fall to her knees. When I opened the door, she dropped like she'd been shot. Not one word, just this loud, choked cry that echoed off the porch. My dad stood behind her, arms stiff at his sides, jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Then came the shouting, but not from them. Across the street, Mrs. Aldridge called out, asking if everything was all right. Then a screen door slammed open 2 houses down. Someone else peeked through their blinds. I felt like the entire neighborhood was tuning in to watch the show. She stole our money. My mom wailed. She took it back after we trusted her. I couldn't even react. My first thought was my daughter. She was inside, probably watching this unfold from the window, hearing things number 7-year-old should be hearing from their grandmother. My husband appeared behind me, calm but visibly done with the drama. We exchanged a glance. He didn't have to say anything. I knew we couldn't leave her outside crying and screaming like that, turning our quiet street into an episode of some trashy reality show. So I stepped aside. She crawled in, still sobbing. My dad followed without a word. We didn't offer drinks. We didn't sit. My husband stood behind me, arms folded while I faced them. What was that party? I asked. Why wasn't I invited? My mom sniffled, pulling tissues from her purse, and gave some speech about how it wasn't meant to be a big deal, and that it was mostly neighbors and close family. I asked her what I was then. She ignored the question. Eventually, She admitted they never actually fixed the roof. Some neighbor patched it up for free. The $8,000 I gave them, they used it to put down on a renovation loan. New siding, new windows, outdoor upgrades. It wasn't just cosmetic. It was luxury. All based on a lie. You said Dad nearly fell off the roof, I said. She nodded. He did. I looked at my dad. He didn't even blink. It was slippery, he said. So, you guilt me into sending money, then used it to throw a party you didn't even invite us to. We didn't want to stress you out. My mom said like that made any sense. And then she changed her tone. Her voice dropped lower. She asked me to return the money, said the contractor was threatening legal action, that they were short, that they didn't have enough left to finish the second phase. I just stared at her. Then she pulled out an envelope from her purse and handed it to me like it was some sort of peace treaty. Inside was a wrinkled catalog page with a toy circled in red marker. A massive dollhouse with lights and furniture. The one my daughter had begged for all summer. It was in their car, she said. Already paid for. Bought it before all this mess. She deserves something nice. My mom said, you shouldn't let this affect her. Took everything in me not to laugh. They'd used my money to lie, throw a party, and now they were using my daughter to buy their way back in. She'll love it. I said, but you're still walking home. My dad finally spoke then. He asked if we were really going to throw them out. Said it was late, that it was getting cold. You live 10 blocks away, I said. And you've done worse. They stood for a few seconds like they didn't believe me. Then they left. No goodbye, no apology, just silence. My daughter loved the dollhouse. Of course she did. She didn't understand what it represented. But I did. It wasn't a gift. It was bait. And they were about to learn I wasn't biting anymore. I thought maybe they'd take the hint that after everything, the lying, the guilt, tripping, the dollhouse bribe, they'd step back, lick their wounds, and stay in their lane. They didn't. The silence lasted 9 days, not even a full 2 weeks. On October 10th, I got a call from my aunt, my dad's sister. She started with, I heard there's been some tension, in that nosy tone that screamed she already knew the story, or at least my mom's version of it. I didn't bother explaining, just told her I wasn't ready to talk. She replied, well, you know how your mom is, and left it at that. That same night, I got a text from my mom. No greeting, just, your father hasn't eaten properly in days. I hope you're happy. I ignored it. The next morning, another text. Does your daughter even remember us? A few hours later, one more. I guess your husband's opinion matters more than your own now. That one stung. They were testing me, trying different tactics. Guilt, subtle jabs, then a public stunt. Of course, my mom posted a photo of the dollhouse, still in its box in their garage, with soft lighting and a sad caption. Bought this for our little princess. Maybe one day she'll see it. Maybe one day her mother will let her. The comments poured in. Kids always come back. Grandparents are irreplaceable. Don't lose hope. My sister Michelle added a heart emoji. She hadn't spoken to me since college unless she needed a babysitter. It was so obviously manipulative, it almost made me laugh. Almost. Then they started showing up. My dad ran into me at the grocery store near my daughter's school. He didn't even pretend it was a coincidence. Just stood by the frozen section, arms crossed, and asked if I was going to keep dragging this out. 2 days later, my mom was at the coffee shop by my office. She sat at the next table, flipping through a magazine until I looked up, then said loudly enough for the barista to hear, "Are you really okay with your daughter growing up without grandparents?" I didn't respond, just left. The next day, I blocked both their numbers. That night, my mom left a voicemail from my aunt's phone. She said I'd changed, that ever since I married that man, I wasn't myself. That I'd become cold, disrespectful, proud. She accused my husband of controlling me, turning me against my family. Then she said something that seared into my mind. When he leaves you, and trust me, he will, we'll still be here. We're the only ones who'll love you after. It wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. She wanted me to doubt myself, to wonder if I'd overreacted, if I'd been too harsh. I played the voicemail for my husband. He listened, set my phone down, and asked, "So, what are you going to do?" I stared at the wall, not angry, just done. I'm going to show them what it looks like when I stop playing their game. They wanted a daughter they could manipulate, one who'd beg to be let back in, crying at their doorstep like my mom had at mine. But I wasn't her, and they were about to learn that the hard way. I thought blocking them would end it. I was wrong. About a week later, My cousin Amy showed up with a tray of lemon bars and that nervous smile she always wears. Amy's the type who'd cry during a Monopoly game to avoid conflict, so I knew this wasn't just a visit. I was in the area, she said. I let her in, bracing for what was coming. She barely made it 10 steps before spilling it. They asked me to talk to you. She sat on the edge of the couch, like she didn't want to stay long, and rambled about how my parents were struggling, how things had gotten out of hand. I stayed silent, waiting. Then she dropped the bombshell. They're thinking about selling the house. That caught my attention, not because I cared about the house, but because I knew what it meant to them. That place was their pride, their castle. They'd once scolded me for trimming the hedges wrong when I was 12. Selling it would be their last resort. Amy looked at her hands, clearly uncomfortable, and said, "They're hoping you'll let them stay here. Just for a bit, in your guest room." I laughed out loud. "They gave me the lemon bars to bring," she added. "Said you used to like them." I walked her to the door without a word and told her to take the tray. She did. That night, I called my aunt, my dad's sister, the one who stays out of family drama. Neutral ground. The one who never guilt me. I told her everything, from the money I sent to my mom's meltdown on my porch. I held nothing back. She was quiet for a long time, then said, "I had no idea they were doing this to you." She'd heard a different story, that I'd turned cold, was ashamed of my family, and that my husband was pulling the strings. She sounded angry, not at me, but at them. She said she'd call the others, make sure the truth got out. The next morning, I sent a final message to the family group chat. Short, blunt, I'm done. I'm no longer part of this family. Don't call, don't come to my house, don't write. I'm not your daughter or sister. I'm nothing to you. This is the last you'll hear from me. Then I blocked every number, every account. For a few days, it was quiet. I started to relax, even slept better. Then my husband called me into the kitchen, holding his phone with a look that said trouble. He'd gotten a message from an unfamiliar number, Michelle, using a fake account. She said he needed to talk sense into me before I did something I couldn't undo. I deleted it and blocked her. The next day, my husband's old coworker texted him. He'd seen my dad at his old job, where my dad hadn't worked in a decade. Apparently, he'd driven 30 miles to tell anyone who'd listened that I'd cut them off over a misunderstanding and was being brainwashed. I was beyond done. Then the contractor called, not his assistant, but him. He said my parents gave him my number, claimed I was handling their finances, that I delayed their last payment, and that legal action was possible if it wasn't settled soon. His tone was awkward, almost apologetic, like he knew he'd been dragged into something messy. I told him flat out, I'm not responsible. I gave them money for a roof. What they did with it isn't my problem. I cut them off after they drained my trust, patience, and dignity, using my name to cover their mess. Changed my number, kept it secret except for my husband and aunt. It wasn't revenge, it was sealing a wound. The silence was peaceful, no calls, no visits. My daughter asked about them once. I said they're gone, and she didn't ask again. Then came a card from my mom, slipped under our door. Let's start over. No apology, just blame and a claim. You're still our daughter. It felt like control, not love. I threw it out. At the grocery store, she followed us, said I'd regret it, predicted my husband would leave. I drove away, protecting my daughter in the back seat. My aunt urged me to cut them off completely. They didn't want forgiveness, just access. I removed them from all legal documents, changed my daughter's school pickup, wrote them a letter. You no longer have a daughter. You chose this. Don't contact me again. They didn't stop. Blank emails, photos of my daughter with creepy notes, social media stunts. I installed cameras, filed a police report, blocked them everywhere. The school got a warning after a note in my daughter's backpack. Real families forgive. I changed her routine, ready with a restraining order. Months passed, and the silence became real. I felt like myself again, not their version of me. My daughter stopped asking. She felt safe. I stayed cautious, cameras up, checking cars, but I wasn't waiting for them anymore. I didn't want their apologies or reconciliation. They were gone for good. Then a legal notice arrived. They sued for $8,000, claiming I gifted it under false pretenses. I laughed, then got serious. My aunt, cousin, and even a contractor provided evidence against them. The case was dismissed in minutes. Judge called it a waste of time. In court, my mom shouted I wasn't her daughter anymore. I smiled. She'd finally admitted it. She never loved me, just the obedient version of me. 8 months later, no contact. My daughter's thriving, my marriage is solid, we bought a new house, a true fresh start. The $8,000 went to a nonprofit for women escaping abuse, signed in their name to honor who I'll never be. They wanted me to feel small. Instead, I grew. They tried to ruin me, but set me free.